Today, I'm going to be doing the New York teams in terms of the season preview, and I'm going to be taking a look at both New York teams, starting with the Red Bulls on the season preview, and then after I finish with this recording, I'll look at the other New York team, New York City FC, also known as NYCFC. But start off with the Red Bulls. They finished a record of 14-6-14 last season, and they had 45 points. They scored 53 goals and conceded 51 goals and had a +2 goal differential. Last season summary, they finished 6th in the Eastern Conference, but they did get eliminated in the first round of the playoff by the Philadelphia Union. They got knocked out in the quarterfinal of the CONCACAF Champions League, and they got eliminated in the fourth round of the U.S. Open Cup. Now, in terms of players that they have acquired this offseason, not a lot of players. And this is definitely going to be one of the biggest talking point about the Red Bulls, of the fact that they definitely didn't do much this offseason. And if anything they did this offseason, they have spent... There's been more news about some of their key players that they lost this offseason than they actually acquire those players that they hope that can replace some of those key players. And when that happens, that is definitely not a good recipe in terms of having a decent season. But in terms of players that they got, and some of these names is not going to be very recognizable because it's just some very small off-season acquisition that they, of course, made. Kendall McIndish, Chris Lerman, Jared Straub, John Tukins, Josh Sims on an extended loan. Again, I'm going to be putting guys that, even though they are part of the team last season, this offseason they can either get them a permanent deal, or in this case with Josh Sims, he's going to have an extended loan, and I believe he is going to be his extended loan is going to either expire in June or it's going to be at the end of this season. And I also remember they had an option to buy if they are willing to get Josh Sim from Southampton. They also added David Janssen, who they think he might be the guy that replaced Luis Robles in that goalkeeping spot. I look on the Red Bulls website, and in terms of the roster, he's wearing the number 1, so I'm guessing he's going to be the starting goalkeeper of this team. And then you got Mandela Igbo, who is a player that they got from Darmstadt, and I'm assuming maybe he's going to be the replacement for Kamar Lawrence, but it was kind of a very under-the-radar move that it makes me wonder, is he actually going to be the replacement of Kamar Lawrence, or is he just going to be there for some depth that this Red Bulls team need in the back line? Now, in terms of player that is out, as I mentioned, most of the off-season news with the Red Bulls had involved with players that is leaving the team, and some key players that left the team. One of the key players is Connor Lade. Well, Connor Lade actually didn't leave this team. He actually retired from professionally. So, yeah, he's, of course, no longer with the Red Bulls. Luis Robles, obviously one of the more well-known name, got picked up in the... Well, actually, no, he didn't get picked up in the expansion draft. He did go to Inter Miami, which is one of the expansion teams, but the Red Bulls didn't sign him with a new contract, and now Inter Miami basically picked him up on a free agency. And I probably should remember this, because I did say when the Red Bulls decided to not bring back Luis Robles that I won't be surprised if somebody is going to be talking to Robles' agent and immediately acquired him, because this is by far one of, if not the best goalkeeper that we ever had end up into free agency, and Inter Miami wastes no time to pick him up, and I think that is a great acquisition that Inter Miami, of course, got. Other guys that is no longer with this team that either got cut or they did not have their contract picked up: Vincent Betancourt, Marcus Ipps, Derek Etienne Jr., who actually went on loan with FC Cincinnati, and of course FC Cincinnati decided to not sign him on a permanent deal, and now the Red Bulls, of course, did bought him back momentarily before they decided to transfer him to the Columbus Crew. Jean Christie Kofi, Evan Laro, Bradley Wright Phillips, which tomorrow I, of course, will talk about the fact that he is now with LAFC. And I will also mention how it was kind of interesting, the fact that he's with LAFC right now, even though I said a couple of weeks when he was on trial with LAFC, I thought they were potentially going to sign him after his trial is done. But tomorrow I'll tell you why it was kind of a little bit interesting. And maybe there's one factor that LAFC had to deal with this week that really make them kind of had no choice but have to sign Bradley Wright Phillips. Michael Murillo and Kamar Lawrence is no longer with this team. So Kamar Lawrence is another guy that is a key piece who went to Anderlecht. In fact, both Michael Murillo and Kamar Lawrence both went to Anderlecht, and the Red Bulls didn't get a lot out of them. I don't remember how much they got from Murillo, but Kamar Lawrence, I believe they only got like $1 to $3 million, which is definitely not a lot of money to able to cash in on these players that they develop throughout their last couple of seasons. In terms of the goal scored of this team, well, since Bradley Wright Phillip is no longer with this team, I'm gonna guess it's probably gonna be Brian White and Tom Barlow, and I might even add Daniel Royer on that list too, because Royer is a guy that scored a ton of goals last season, and I won't be surprised if he's going to be as a goal scorer of this team. Now, for playmaker, I also put Daniel Royer there. I was tempting to try to put Kaku on there because Kaku, when they first bought him, he was supposed to be their playmaker and supposed to be their number 10. And last season, obviously, he had a pretty miserable year, not only on the field, but also in terms of the disciplinary issue. And, I don't know if he can recover that form this season, and that I have a feeling the reason why he didn't play very well is kind of something similar to what Lucho Acosta was victim of the fact that you remember when Lucho Acosta was just moments away to sign with PSG, and then at the last minute the deal fell through, and it really was kind of disheartening for him. And we thought that season or last season, when Lucho Acosta was at DC, I thought that maybe, with such a disheartening kind of situation of him almost signing with one of the best club in Europe, and at the last minute it fell through, I thought maybe it could potentially motivate him to be better, but instead he kind of fell off the cliff. And that goes the same with Kaku, where he was heavily rumored to join Club America, and that there was even at one point that deal was all but confirmed, but it fell through at the last minute, and Kaku has really not looked the same ever since that. And also, he hasn't looked the same since that controversial moment where he decided to kick a soccer ball in front of a fan that happened down when they play against SKC at Children Mercy Park. Yeah, that also is one of the main incidents that we remember what Kaku did last season, and both of those incidents is kind of contribute of why he doesn't seem like he was as good as he was when he came into the league. Now, in terms of MVP, I put a question mark there because since Bradley Wright Phillips is no longer with this team, I would always put BWP as the MVP for the Red Bulls, but since he's no longer here, I don't actually know who is going to be the MVP of this team. I mean, there's definitely, I can definitely see on this roster, there are guys that can definitely be up there to be the most valuable player on this team. I can say maybe Daniel Royer could be one of them because he's one of the playmaker and the guy that can score goals. I can even say maybe Brian White, who really when he stepped into BWP role when BWP was spending majority of the season on IR, he did very well in terms of scoring the goals for this team. Or you can even look at a couple of the midfields, and you could even say that they could deserve in terms of MVP awards. So, I'm just gonna put that as a question mark, and I'll see who exactly does the Red Bulls have as a player that could be a standout player, and maybe next season when I do this again, I can basically put them on the MVP list. Now, in terms of surprise package, I'm actually going to go with Christian Casillas Jr. This kid, I think, thing a lot of media has been talking about, how he could definitely be the next Tyler Adams, and whether or not if he can be the next Tyler Adams. And last season he definitely showed some flashes of what Tyler Adams did with this Red Bulls team. But if he can, of course, do that again and kind of continue to continue his growth in his career, then maybe the Red Bulls might have found the next Tyler Adams, and that he could perfectly fit in that role that Adams used to play in the midfield. And not only he could be a creative player on this team, but he can also be a good holding midfielder. Now, what I like about the Red Bulls, there's a lot of young talented player on this team that is coming out of the Red Bulls Academy, and they're already ready to take the spotlight. I mean, I think, one of the things that I said about how there's a lot of lack of signing, and how, normally I would be very concerned with a team that doesn't really sign a lot of players, and that they had some of their main core player from a couple of years ago left the team. But since they already have these kind of young guys that is going to be stepped into some of these star players that have left the team, maybe I won't be as concerned of the fact that they are going to basically fall off the cliff, and that these guys have shown that last season they can really step into that role and can really perform with this team. Now, that being said, that is also one of my big question of the fact that will lack of signing hurt the Red Bulls, and that, as I said, I know there's these young guys that is stepping into guys that are part of the old core of the Red Bulls, and they're ready to kind of almost as if, since these old guys are, or some of these star players that is now gone with the team, it's almost like those star players have now passed the torch down. A new generation of Red Bulls players that's come out of the academy and ready to once again dominate once again be a very good team and dominate the league. We don't know if that, of course, is the case. There are some times where they've shown that they can do that, and then there are some times that they definitely didn't show that they can, of course, move into the next step. And it's kind of all about consistency, of the fact that sometimes they could be a little bit inconsistent, but that's the case with a lot of young players. And this is also the reason why, as much as they have a lot of youngster on the team, and I always love when a team play their kids, and especially play their players from the academy, inconsistency is one of the big issue in terms of just playing your kids in the roster, because these players are still very young, and they're certainly very energetic every single game, but they don't tend to keep that up every single game, and they still have a lot to learn in terms of, you want to be energetic and you want to perform, but you also want to do it in a consistent rate. Now, the other thing that I also say about the lack of signing that might hurt the Red Bulls this season is that, this does mean that it does hurt a little bit of the depth too, because since most of these young guys that, they were kind of as the backup of some of these starters that is no longer with this team, now that they, of course, take their spotlight and they step into those roles, that means that they're going to be like the number one starter, which means who exactly is the backup for those guys. So Def is definitely going to take a bit of a downgrade for the Red Bulls, which is why, if they would have made some signings this offseason to address that and add in some more depth, or even add in a couple more veterans player where they don't just have like young players all over on the field. Like, I feel like if there's one area that I think they probably should have made some signing, it's definitely the defense. And, last season, I know the defense, they only gave up 51 goals, which was kind of right around the middle mark in terms of if you look at the mark in terms of what makes a good defense and what makes a bad defense. This is kind of like right on the average. But a lot of that has to do with Luis Robles, and that there was a lot of time last season. Robles made some key save last season to really keep his side in games, and he really kind of stole a couple of games for the Red Bulls. And now Robles is no longer with this team, and now you bring in a guy that you don't know if he can just step right into Robles' shoes and can fill his shoes right away, that could definitely be an issue. And that I just feel like they should have added a little bit more. They should have maybe signed a couple of defender. I mean, they do have some very talented defender in Tim Parker and Aaron Long, but they don't really have like any like in terms of the fullback position. Obviously, Kamar Lawrence is no longer there, and they don't really have. They didn't even thought about a backup for him. Michael Murillo used to be kind of like that backup defender for this team. Now he's no longer there, so they lost a key piece in depth in terms of defense. So they probably should have addressed that in the offseason, but since they didn't exactly do that, and I'm guessing maybe they'll address that by bringing some more young talented players from the academy to take that spot, which we don't know if that's gonna work very well or not. We shall see how it's gonna go, and whether or not if the lack of signing for the Red Bulls would really hurt them this season, and the lack of just bring some veterans players either from MLS or from Europe or even in South America is going to hurt this team. But either way, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. If you're a Red Bulls fan, what do you think of your offseason acquisition? Are you happy the fact that they didn't really make a lot of acquisition and a lot of addition in the offseason? I'm pretty sure there are a lot of Red Bulls fans that probably are not happy with the team being kind of cheap and just really heavily rely on their academy to hope to produce some talent. And also, who do you think is going to be the goal scorer, the playmaker, the MVP, and the surprise package? What do you think is something you like about this team heading into this season? And what is one big question that the Red Bulls does have coming into this season? But either way, hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time. And actually, I'll see you guys in a bit as I'm about to talk about the other New York team, which is NYCFC.